Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Community Connections with Ryan Sauers. Super excited to have my friend Kristen Gates. You know her. Yes, there she is, smiling face. She has the Spencer and Kristen show on 94.9 The Bull in Atlanta, and we've connected, and I'm super excited to have Kristen with us today to talk about life in the world of 2020. How are you doing, Kristen?
Right? 2020.
Are we going to skip that year at one point when our grandkids ask us about it and just go 2019, 2021?
It's so funny. I always tell the story about how I bought this day planner about a month into 2019, and it said 2019 best year ever. It is probably one of the worst years of my life. So I didn't even buy a day planner for 2020, and I'm not going to. I don't want one.
Yeah, I was talking to a client a little while ago, and everybody, I mean, everything's having to be rethought. And you see a lot of things, being in your radio station, probably of who can be there, not be there. But I was talking to a funeral home, talking about they can't get loved ones too close to each other, from around the country. I've talked to wedding people where they're like, we can't have big weddings. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't even know the right word, unprecedented. And yet, real life also goes on. And so tell us, tell us a little bit about you. I know you were from Kennesaw, and about your family, and I think you still live in the Kennesaw area.
Yeah, so we moved to Kennesaw when I was 10, but I've kind of stayed within about a 20-mile radius of Kennesaw for pretty much my entire life since then. But just grew up in Kennesaw, went to Berry College up in Rome, Georgia.
Yeah.
Started in radio there, and then met who would become my husband. We built a house in Cartersville, or even a little smaller part, White, Georgia, 30184.
Right.
And then and then we moved back into Cobb when our kids were old enough to start school, and that's where we've been. So I'm literally 7 minutes from my parents and probably 12 minutes from my sister, and then of course close to all of my friends that I grew up with.
Dude, it's funny. That's a parallel story. So I grew up back in the day, if you remember, the DeKalb County schools, like Tucker High School. I went to Tucker High School. I won't date myself at my age, but it's getting near a few years with my 30 reunion, and I told you, my radio guest the other day, he made my day. But yeah, and so when we built the house, I had a company I was running with my father, a printing company. So I built a house in the Gwinnett, but very close to DeKalb, and been here 20 years now. So I have that same situation where they're like, they don't know what high school I went to. They think I went to the one in Parkview in Gwinnett County. I'm like, no, I didn't go here. That's where I live. But I literally, yeah, I mean, I can cross the line and be 10 minutes from where I grew up. So it is very similar. There's not a lot of us left.
I know. The
People say,
OGs.
the OG, they say, you're from here? I'm like, dude, sorry. But well, tell us about, so you were saying, and I think it's very interesting, you said your husband or ex-husband or whatever, Steve, you said you guys have really modeled, and I'm really proud of this because it's very important. I know a few people that are they're going to be listening that are dealing with, I'll just leave it, dealing with a tough situation right now. Tell us a little bit about, divorces can be horrible, and kids are pulled through it. How have you guys modeled still having those relationships for your children, and doing it the right way, I guess?
Well, I mean, I think that there are marriages, obviously 50% of them fail, right? And I think that some of them fail and it's awful, there are bad things happening, but that's not really, Steve and I didn't divorce because we were fighting, or somebody cheated, or somebody took all the money, or there weren't drugs or alcohol or anything like that. I just think that, and I'm proud of the fact that we could sit down and just say, hey, look, the things that I brought to the table 15, 17 years ago are not the thing, we've both changed, as everybody does, right?
That's
As you
right.
get older, you start a family, and we always remained best friends. I mean, we were best friends, but best friends isn't exactly a marriage either, right? So when we made that decision, and look, it took years to get there, and it hurts. And I don't care if it's the most amicable separation, split, divorce in the world. It still hurts. And there's still things that I'm learning from it. And it's been years. but we just, I think it's just because we had that respect level. And the hardest thing you will do is sit your kids down, especially when you're a family. I mean, they've never even saw us raise our voices at one another, and then tell your kids, well, it's going to change. And here's what, I mean, that it's that look on their faces that will be burned, into your mind forever. And it just makes me want to cry even thinking about it. But we promised them when we had that talk that, we are still a family unit and we're not mad at each other and we all still love each other. And I love my ex-husband, and I will, he's a high school football coach, and I will root for him until it's not my place to be his biggest cheerleader. But we still do family dinners. We do vacations. I mean, he was my best friend. So we still go to each other over best friend things that are really tough, or even if like one of us dated somebody and, got our feelings hurt, we can still even have that conversation with each other. So I think we're lucky, but I think, and I always say this too, Steve and I are divorced for a reason, obviously. So it's not like everything, like we don't see eye to eye on everything, but we feel like we're a pretty good team in the sense of when people say co-parenting. I mean, we never really followed a custody agreement. Our kids we live close enough. Our kids kind of go wherever it was working for them, and we all see each other just about every day. So I don't know if we did anything to make it work like this, or if we are just super blessed and it worked like this. I don't know.
Well, and first of all, I applaud that. I think it's so important. There's so many types of marriages and family units, and there's no one right way to do it. I mean, I told you I'm a dad of 3 daughters, and people all the time say, "Well, how do you do it?" I'm like, there wasn't like a manual I got. I mean, between my wife and my 3 kids, I promise you they won't tune into this show because they go, "We hear you every day, right? We don't need to hear you talking anymore." But it's I always feel like somebody's mad at me. I've hurt somebody's feelings, and because somebody's always mad at me, and I've kind of turned to take it. I've developed that relationship where my wife can say whatever she wants to, and an hour later they're fine. But when I say it, they're mad at me for a week,
It's
so people
because
are
it's in
always
our DNA. It's a female thing.
right. Well, I'm trying, and you know what, Kristen, seriously, I had this on my Marketing Matters show. I'm going to devote the rest of 2020 to bringing in guests. I have this great friend of mine. Her name is Michelle Sutter, and she has a Gwinnett coalition of women, like 2,300 business leaders, or people like yourself, just top people in the communities. And she said, I want to be a presenting sponsor in your show, but would you consider bringing on 2 women leaders or business owners or whatever for every 2 shows you do? And I said, absolutely. I have 3 daughters. I mean, you can't have a bigger guy that want be like your sons. You want them to succeed. I mean. So it's a different lens than I mean, I look back, if I knew the things I did about girls in terms of emotions, I would have been the coolest guy ever, but you don't learn it until you're on the the inside.
I know, it's crazy too, just in the world that I work in, is that, especially having 3 daughters. I mean, heck yeah, I would want them to learn as much as they could about, finances, everything they could, because these are the women. I mean, right now, if you look at consumer buying, women make the decisions.
They do. I mean,
So I would
my
every bit of I could.
Yeah, my magazines, predominantly we can mirror it through digital media and Facebook. I mean, probably 65-70% is women, where even if their husband's something, they're the ones nudging them to say, hey, go, this lawn service has been highly rated, go check them out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I try my best to teach and show every day. But yeah, I mean, even people who have 2 daughters are always asking me questions, and I'm like, man, I don't know that I've done everything right. I'm just doing the best I can. I mean, it's all you're doing. And speaking of that, tell us a little bit. I mean, you have dealt with, you were talking about 2019, and you had to deal with the C word of, is it stomach cancer you faced or facing?
Yeah, so right when Steve and I separated, ironically, I just wasn't feeling great. And so, just from going from one doctor and blood work, and then, oh, you need to go to this, we found out that I have, they're called neuroendocrine carcinoid tumors that grow in the lining of my stomach. It's just something with my stomach cells. But it was, a 2-year process. You find out you have cancer, and am I going to undergo treatment? How am I going to die? I mean, I think that was, for me, that first, in my 30s, we all feel so invincible, right? It's why we
Right.
do dumb things, because we think we're going to but it was that one time I just didn't feel invincible anymore. And it was a long wait to get, what connected A to B and B to C, because it was a case study. It was unheard of that anybody my age was dealing with this. It was a blessing that it was even found when it was, because, the tumors were so small. And usually they don't even find this until the tumors are so big and people have
Wow.
huge problems because of it. And so, I'm not going to say that was a rough, scary, going through a lot personally, right? And then my job is to go entertain and wake people up and make them smile, or, and I don't, there are people that will put their medical woes out there, and then there are people that want to deal with it privately, because there's so much in my life that I feel like doesn't get to be private. That was a rough time, but we eventually, in working with specialists, we keep it non-life threatening. I did not have to undergo chemo or radiation or anything like that. Just have to undergo some procedures yearly to make sure that we keep them tiny. They're going to continue to grow, but we'll just keep them tiny and get rid of them when they're tiny.
Well,
If that makes sense.
that's a huge blessing. And I think I alluded to you when I sent you back. I've been around firsthand cancer situations, and it's just watching it from close family members. It's just a never-ending. And I can't even fully, no matter how much I listen, understand it if I haven't been the one, doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. And I think a lot of people, and I think you want to talk about this a little bit. So that's a blessing for you, that what you're dealing with, and that there's a way that it can be watched and handled. And that's great. That's great.
When we got that news, it was like the weight of a million worlds was off of my shoulders. Now, I'm not going to say that, when it's time to go in for scans or things like that, I think I still kind of feel sorry for myself a little bit. It's like you're either waiting on a scan, or you're doing a scan, or then you're waiting on results. And I think I let that bog me down for a while. And then just last year had not been feeling great. And that's the funny thing too, when you have any kind of like health issue, medical issue thing, I would think that a lot of people say to me, I was having these headaches, but it was the first year that I sent a child off to college, and paying for that, and not having your child right there when you want to see them, or they're not living with you. And work was really hard. And it was like the holidays, and, or stressful and all that kind of stuff. And so I just kept thinking, whoo, gosh, I've got, I just have this headache, and we're not a sick family ever.
Right.
We never get the cold. Well, let me knock on wood. We never get the colds. We never get the viruses. We just are not, we're not doctor-y people. And so I didn't even realize that I was just popping headache medicine left and right. Had no clue. Didn't even think about it, and didn't even know it until all of this was over and I found all of the pill bottles and purses and shelves and drawers. But I was just having this really bad headache. And then as the year started, the person that I did a morning show with was let go. So this is 10 years of working with somebody. So massive changes there. And then within 3 weeks, my program director was replaced. Massive changes there. And the whole time, I've got this new morning show partner, this new boss. I'm trying to be great. You don't want to be the weak link on the team, but I am struggling. And those headaches, they just became so intense. Just like almost like these little sharp pains were happening, where it would just stop you right in your tracks, and it would go away as soon as it came in. But I kept thinking, am I losing my hearing? Maybe is that what's happening over here? Or am I grinding my teeth? And I went to every single person to try to answer those questions. It finally got so bad, and saw my oncologist a couple times, saw my dentist, saw my eye doctor, saw my chiropractor, saw my nurse practitioner. And then, every time, they can run tests, they can look at it, and they're like, I don't know. So I was referred to a neurologist, but told it could be weeks. They'll call you, it's a specialist. And so this could be weeks before you hear from them, but they'll call you and, maybe they'll want to do like a CT or something. And I just remember walking out of that doctor and calling my parents and saying, I don't know if I can make it 3 or 4 weeks. I can't function.
Pain.
So I made the decision that next night that I was going to drive myself to the emergency room after my show. The next morning, told my parents, they met me there, they did a CT, and we knew within a couple of hours that I had a brain tumor. So we took care of that, and that was removed a few days later, and got home and recovered for 7 weeks, and then went back to work. And that was
this year. Was that this year?
That was last year. That was
2019
in March of 2019, right? And
you've had a doozy of 2 years.
It's crazy. Yeah, I know. And the funny thing too is that you survive. And I think I struggled with that as a person with, deep faith as well, why is this happening? What am I supposed to be doing with this? How am I supposed to be helping people?
Right.
Am I not loving on my family the way I'm supposed to?
Right.
Is this a wake-up call? Am I not appreciating life? Am I not doing enough for others? What am I supposed to do with this? And almost a survivor's guilt with that tumor too, because everybody just knew this was, stomach cancer that had metastasized to my head, and it wasn't. So I think I didn't, God did not call me and say, let me tell you why this is all happening. But I think where my heart felt better was to just be able to say to people, hey, don't put this off. Don't live in fear that something's wrong, because, a lot of people will not, Ryan, go to the doctor because they just are convinced it's going to be horrible news. And as a result, they won't go, and they probably really could put themselves in danger. Right. And so what I have just really tried to impress upon people is, look, you may get some bad news. I got some of the just about worst news multiple times, but I'm still here, and modern medicine is a magical, wonderful thing. And thank God for the people who practice it. Right.
Right.
And it's a medical system that is flawed. Yes. And insurance system that is flawed. Yes. But you have to fight for yourself. And I think I was that person that, I need to be there for my boys. I need to be there for Steve, my ex-husband. I need to be there for well, you're not going to be there for any of them if you don't take care of yourself, and you have to do it. And I get scared just like everybody else, but even if you get bad news, it's okay. They're probably going to be able to help you. You're not going to die. There aren't that many people that walk into the doctor and find out that day they're dying. So
that's important. And that's important. It's funny, I, and you motivated me today. See, I put off, my doctor gave me a plan a few years ago of getting back. He's like, listen, you're under your 2 companies and your stress and your doctorate and all this stuff. He's like, go get, cut out this caffeine and get more rest and lose a few pounds and, all the things they tell you to do. And so it's taken me a handful of years to, cut out all these, drink more water. And I've gotten there. And literally I have on my list, get back in there. And I realized more years have gone by than I had realized. And so now I actually have a little bit of that fear of going, why did I let these years go? Because I felt fine. And it was so silly, I actually did the same thing my father did. His story, when he found out he had prostate cancer, he never went to the doctor. And the doctors told him, they said, if you would have gone, this was an easy fix, but you didn't go. So it's, I'm the guy that tries to learn from other people. And I told him the other day, and he's like, Ryan, I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but I wouldn't do that if I had it to do over again. So you've encouraged me today I'm going to get that appointment set, because I'm sitting there going, I'd rather know what's going on than just be sitting, you never know. And like you said,
knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. And there's enough, I've accomplished what they asked me to do, and time just kind of got away from me. And I wasn't like, feeling bad. And so, but I looked, I'm like, oh my God, that's been more than a year or 2 or 3. And so you've inspired
me. It does, right? That time does go by so fast. And I had, another issue at the end of last year, just going to get a mammogram and then having to go get a diagnostic and then being sat down, and really felt like I was kind of given the like the death march papers. It just was not a great experience. And then had to go find a breast specialist, and then had to have biopsies. And at this point I'm thinking like, well, of course I'm going to have breast cancer because it's what I do. I breed cancer in my body. And I was so lucky to find a breast specialist who literally, I mean, I was probably more rattled by that than I was the brain tumor or the stomach cancer, because that's so scary. You see so many survivors, but you see so many women that, struggle, and men with it.
Right.
So and that's what we do as parents too. It's like, I don't want my kids to see me sick. I'm going to be so sick if this is what it is, and how am I going to work? And what we all do, why we don't go to the doctor in the first place. And I just remember, she came in, and within the first 30 seconds, she said two things to me. She said, first of all, I need you to understand that 80% of biopsies come back benign. So, which I would have loved to have heard that weeks before my appointment with her. And I don't get online to look up anything, because,
Right.
you get a paper cut, you look it up online, you're going to die. So
Yeah.
I
Right.
don't do that. But then she also said to me, and you need to know that if it's been caught so early that it will be less than a stage 1 or a stage 1, which is 100% treatable, 100% curable. Well, then all I kept thinking was, thank God I go do this every year. I dread it. I mean, nobody wants that, but I did it, and now I have the answers, and I'm good. And now, because of my issues, I have to be watched a little more closely. I hate that. I don't like going in 2 or 3, 4 times a year, but it's knowledge, right? And I walk out
Right.
of there and I get these answers, and I go, whew. Or I find out that there are some things like you did. There are some things, I've got a higher risk of things. So
Yeah.
what can I change on my end?
Yeah, and that's I've been doing that whole. I don't really know, and you've actually really inspired me today to think about it, because it's really because I told you, I think my younger sister, who's about 8 years younger than me, 6 months old, she had a malignant brain tumor and was given, like, I think, a 1%, because I was about 8, she was 6 months old, 1% chance to live, like, 6 months, and she now is married. She dealt with so much, it's impossible to tell her story, but she's now in her early 40s and got married to a great guy, and she can't drive, she could never do all those things. But I saw that side of it, and so many of her friends growing up. My dad started the Brain Tumor Foundation for Children, that has since morphed into something across the country. But I saw so many kids with brain tumors pass away at a young age. And so, it's almost weird, because my mom has systemic lupus. So I've watched them go to the doctor all the time. And I don't know, it's almost like I've done the opposite. And I don't even know why. I mentally can't tell you why, to be honest with you. It doesn't make any sense. But I am going to go. I need to go. And I am at the age where I need to get checked on a number of things. And it's foolish not to. So, for all
You
those
feel
people
so
listening.
much better when you do it too. You just feel so much better.
Well, you see, beside the fact that if we did the show at, like, yeah, we would have to have a show at somewhere between your waking up hours and my wandering around hours, and then in the middle of the night we'd have fun together. Let's let's switch gears real quick. Let's talk about what you're seeing. You and I talked. Social media is an amazing tool, but first of all, right now I'm going to say two things. A lot of people are using social media to divide everything in America. I mean, everything, mask or no mask, school or no school, Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter what you write. Somebody has a. And secondly, we got a lot of bullying going on. We were talking about it. I mean, what are your thoughts on this stuff? And to our listeners and people viewing.
I'm with you. I think that for me, it started with Facebook, and I just thought Facebook was so cool because it was a great way to reconnect with people from my childhood or my college days. And then I really appreciated Facebook because, it'll pop up your memories. That's what I love it for more than anything is, pictures of my kids when they were, my boys are huge now, but they're little itty bitties, and
Yeah.
there are those pictures. That's my favorite thing to do every day is look back and see what was happening 5 years ago, 8 years ago with my family, my
Yeah.
kids. But now that we've got the Twitters, the Snapchats, the
TikTok.
Instagram, it's such a great tool for business, right? Like
Yep.
it's great for, I always think about mom and pop and small businesses, and radio can be, what I do can be really expensive, but everybody seems to be on social media. So what a great way to market your business. And now even those companies will train you of how to market your business on their platforms. I mean,
Yep.
it's phenomenal.
Yep.
But flip side, like you said, we have a real problem right now in our country, I feel like, with just, you hear about it every single day, right? People are just angry, and we're still trying to get through a pandemic, and it's obviously a politically charged year, and it's definitely a racially charged year. And so
It's a perfect
I think
storm.
that it really is. And I feel like, God is teaching us a lesson. And until we all get on the same page or figure out how to love each other again, we're going to
I agree.
continue to deal with this.
I agree.
But just in the little bit that I do, I, people can just say the ugliest things. Now I've got thick skin, and if I didn't, I
Yeah.
shouldn't be
Right.
out there for everybody. But I just think, I don't even think that I know it's prevalent among our youth. I do know that, but I think it's been drilled into our kids' heads just about how, like, that's not cool and don't do that. Not taking away from the fact that there are children who it's happening to, and I don't want to lighten that in any way. But I feel like it's people. I just look at some of the country singers, the females in country music, and in the country music genre, we love our artists, right? They become a part of our family. We
I
are
love country
invested
music.
in them. They matter to us. It's not just about their music. We want to know who they're married to, their children's names, their birthdays, where they live, where they grew up. And so you see these women who are clearly stunning, okay? I mean, beautiful women. And then you just read some of the comments, and it's mom shaming, it's body shaming, it's so hateful. And I always say to myself, I'm not going to tell you I wasn't thinking it, but I'm not going to say it. And what is it about people where they want to do that and put that's just so mean? And it's obviously their issue, obviously, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. And I don't know how. I guess I'm overwhelmed by it in a way, and I'm interested in it because I don't know how you fix that. I don't know. People can hide behind a keyboard and say some really ugly things. And it just happened to me last week. Now, I don't care, like, I mean, I was
Well,
doing push-ups, for crying out loud, on a video.
you've been
I
doing
don't care.
good. You can do more push-ups than I can right now. So you
Yeah.
keep that up.
Well, then that means you can't do many,
Well,
because
I
I
I didn't
still
watch
can't
the
do
whole
any.
thing. Okay, I didn't know. I didn't see how many you did. So I just kept flipping through. I don't, maybe I should change the statement, but at least you're doing them. Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, getting stronger, right? 100
Right,
push-ups a day,
right.
getting stronger. But it my heart goes out to them because they're hurting. You want to be able to say something to them to make them understand that, like, don't throw your negativity out there on other people. But then there's another part of me too that's very human, that's just like, you loser.
Yeah, I know. I know.
And what happens when you're doing this online to somebody who can't defend themselves or don't have enough years of life experience to be like, what if you really cause somebody to do something harmful to themselves? And it really, I'm fascinated by it. I'm scared about it. I'm interested about it. And now maybe, I mean, just in talking to you, I probably need to do research and see, well, how can I help, or what do I need to do? It's just, and then what is it about, you can have a child, like, you and I could easily raise our kids. We have morals. We teach them to, have compassion for others. But you can have a perfectly great kid
Yep.
who may be saying some of this stuff online, or you can have, a horrible child who's not. How do you know?
Well, Kristen, and we probably got about 4 or 5 minutes left. One I was thinking is, with marketing and speaking and all this stuff, I'm just spend my life more or less, not as much as probably you, but in the public eye, because everything I say, do is dissected, and I try to bring people together. More than ever. Talking about real issues. I've been using this thing, unite, not untie. It's the same letters, unite, not untie. And I tell kids, and I spoke to a high school where my kids went a couple of years ago, and I said, guys, I'm not going to tell you about social media and the bullying, but I need you to think every single thing you do, not as like in 5 seconds, you guys, 2 seconds, y'all can screenshot it and save it forever. And I said, forget about it's out there. And the bottom line is you didn't think about it. You posted it somewhere, and it comes back and becomes a problem 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, for something stupid you wrote, you thought was funny. And I said, and then, you've got people like I'm kind of like you, Kristen. I don't take myself that seriously. So I got a third of the people probably think what I do is stupid. Third of them think it's better than it is, and a third really don't care. And so I have thick skin on that. But watching angry people on social media, I was on an early adopter, and this was to connect people, bring people together. And the divisiveness of this stuff, I mean, with the two magazines I own, I was telling you about, like, we'll get a story on you, and I want to do that. But it's about the story behind the story. Doesn't mean there's not negative parts to the story or down parts, but we want to encourage and come alongside people, because you know what? You can watch negative stuff basically everywhere. I mean,
Mhm.
everywhere we look, especially during this pandemic, it is something is almost overwhelming. And
Right.
and so, like you said, your job's to entertain people, make people smile, be silly. And when people want to take pot shots at stuff, so be it. But to kids, it's a whole different ballgame.
Totally. Yeah. Or and to anybody. I mean, kids, yes, but to anybody. And you know what? You hit on something right there too. I think it is so important. If you think about a conversation you've been in with a friend when they are just in a rough spot and it's negative, 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 negative. And think about how you feel when you get off that phone conversation and you are in a crap mood,
You're
right?
drained.
You
Yeah.
just like you feel like the life's been sucked out of you. You're negative now.
Yep.
So I always try to tell my kids, and my parents and I talk about this, you have a choice. This pandemic, which I truly believe was God giving us something where we needed to learn how to love one another again. And I think we're doing a better job now. I don't think
Yep.
we're doing a great job there for a while.
Right.
But you have a choice, right? So you're homeschooling your kids and you're having to be the worker and the teacher, and that's unbelievably hard. But your kids are feeding off of you. So if you're standing over them and you're complaining about it and you're on social media like this is the worst thing ever, it's not going to change,
Right.
right? Like nobody's going to read your post and they're going to go, well, let's send these kids back to school because this is horrible for you. But your kids are soaking it up.
They
You know
are.
what I mean?
They
And
are.
so I always try to remind myself, and I try to remind my friends and my kids that you have a choice. You have a choice. So you can either be miserable or you can figure out, put all that energy into, I'm going to make this the best I can and just roll with it.
Yeah, and I watched that. I was, before we did the show, I was, I'm in my home studio office, and I was talking to one of my kids, and she's the one halfway through Georgia Tech, and I was talking, and basically I realized I've been putting too much up there, how busy and slammed and running around I am, and blah 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 blah, and I can see, like, it was coming across, and they're under a lot of stress too, with all their digital learning. And that certainly was not my intention, but I realized it and then course corrected. And that's what I think people like you and me can encourage people going, we don't have all the answers, but saying a kind word, hey, saying that's been a tough day, but at least I'm breathing, and I get to live, and it's going to be a better day tomorrow. Right now, there are a lot of people that are very angry, very frustrated, very lonely, very stressed. And I think your job and my job is to not to be fake. We're authentic. We're real. We're talking about real things, but to encourage people and yet love each other more, and quit trying to find what's different and what we don't agree about, and work on what we do see on. Because you know what, you or I or anybody have a lot more in common than we do that's different. And yet, online in particular, because people are brave online, they hide behind their device of whatever they're doing, and they may say things they wouldn't say in other places. And I think people just got
Absolutely.
to say, everybody's a human being. Everybody has feelings, no matter what you do for a living. You could have the best morning show of the year today and feel like crap. And I could be under doing this, but putting my best. They're like, he's always so happy. Well, I might be totally stressed in 15 minutes. But being real, but also realizing, loving and caring on other people. And I think last thing I'd say, Kristen, get your thoughts as we close out. We've been in this world where we're slammed and buried and drowning. I've been speaking on for years, and all of a sudden everything came to kind of a standstill. And we've had
Mhm.
this time to kind of reflect, and now what do we do with this time to come out as better people and better friends and better family members?
Well, don't you think? I mean, I've never felt like teachers really received the respect, that they deserved. So I'm hoping that as we've all been forced to become teachers, which listen, that's a gift. You don't just say, okay, well, I'm going to be a teacher. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
gift. So I'm hoping that our teachers are going to get the acknowledgement and really just the respect or just a thank you. I'm
Right.
sure they would just be happy with a thank you. I think that I hope that a lot of businesses, they're working smarter now, right? I
Yep.
mean, there are so many things that can happen just like we're doing right now, right? That would save both of us if we were driving to each other 2 hours, add
Right.
another hour for traffic. That's
Right.
time away from families, right? So I think I'm hoping that businesses are going to learn that people can work from home if that's what they so choose. And I hope that that improves their quality of life. And I think that I think the time spent with your families, I think that's been a blessing. You know, my sister even said, yeah, I mean, we are reading books together, you know, where I used to be like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry
I
up,
know,
hurry
I
up.
know.
You know? So, and maybe I'm living in a bubble and maybe you and I are just, you know, um, maybe we've got rose colored glasses, but I just will not, I cannot go down a road of negativity. I have got to try to find the positive in things. Maybe that's my health. I don't know. I just have to find the positive in things. And I truly have, and that's with no disrespect to any loss of life. I mean, obviously, but I've been very thankful for what's happened in so many ways, because I think we all just needed a really hard reset, you know?
It is the great. I'm thinking of a new book, The Great Human Reset. You know, you didn't have time until you did, and unfortunately, I gotta finish these last two classes I'm working on. I gotta work on something else first, but you know, it'll change speaking and topics and whatever. For you know, there's no person you're going to talk to that isn't going to discuss this time. And Kristen, you and I could talk forever. I mean, it is so awesome to hear your story. I, you know, if I was up early enough, I should listen to your show. So why don't I'm gonna have you text me and go wake up and listen to my show.
Wake up.
You pretzel boy, late night. No, but in all seriousness, I think doing these things, and that's why I started this particular show, because bringing people on, real people recognize, and talking about real issues that you can't do in other places, encourages other people, and that's what I want to do. I know you do too right now, because we need it. We always need it, but we really need it. And we're all gonna, I say, we're all gonna get through this. But you know, it's there's stuff we got to learn, and I do think God has made us slow down and really kind of take a inventory of where we are. And if people haven't done some reflection or learned or thought differently, I'm not exactly sure what they're doing, because there's been plenty of time to think, you know, and take that a lot of things we took for granted.
Yeah, and just find a little bit of humor in the funny things. And more than anything, don't be afraid to say I am struggling right now. You know, like I am struggling, because honestly, you guys, we are all trying to do the same thing: be good spouses, be good parents, be good coworkers, employees, employers, friends. We are all trying to figure it out, and it does help us to know that we're not in this boat by ourselves, right? And
A
we're not
hundred
in the
percent.
boat by ourselves. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, and that's just it. So, I mean, any, I think we're coming probably the last couple minutes. Any kind of, so we've got Kristen Gates, she's the Spencer and Kristen show in the morning, 94.9 The Bull. Kristen, man, I just tell you, thank you for carving out some time today. I know you've been up early. So you can send me that text at 2 a.m. and be like, did you go to bed tonight? Literally, we'll cross nights in the path. But I thank you so much for coming on. We got to
Thank
do it
you.
again, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we definitely will. And I appreciate you taking time with me, but I think we both are talkers. And so we
Well,
could
yeah, these are the shows people are
do
going to
a
really digest. People love watching these. I get more comments, and then you know this will come out in a podcast, and I'll get it to you too, so you can share. But it's important to have these real conversations, and like you said, not having to be in your studio or my studio. You can go a little bit longer and go deeper, and you know that's what we did today. So I really appreciate it. It's nice to virtually see you, and
yeah,
it's about as good as we can do right now, right?
that's right.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, Kristen. This has been Kristen Gates on another Community Connection show with Ryan Sauers. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.